A frozen airfield in England, 1943.
Snow falls gently, but the air crackles with tension. A pilot storms toward his battered fighter plane, his voice cutting through the cold like a blade. Who the hell touched my plane? That question sparked a rebellion that changed the course of a war. This is the story of one man, a mechanic with a wrench, a vision, and the guts to break every rule in the book. His name was Tom Kelly, and he turned a mocked flying milk jug into a beast that hunted Nazis from the skies. Buckle up, this is a tale of defiance, ingenuity, and the kind of courage that doesn't ask for permission. And trust me, you'll want to see how it ends. In the winter of 1943, the Allied airfields of southeast England were a chaotic symphony of roaring engines, clanging tools, and the ever-present threat of death. World War II was at its peak, and the skies over Europe were a battleground where the Luftwaffe still held the upper hand. The 56th Fighter Group, under Colonel Hubert Hub Zemke, was tasked with protecting Allied bombers from German fighters. But their weapon, the P-47 Thunderbolt, was failing them. Pilots called it the Jug, short for Juggernaut, or, as most grumbled, a flying milk jug. It was heavy, sluggish, and prone to overheating, its massive Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine choking under pressure. To the men who flew it, the Thunderbolt wasn't a fighter, it was a death trap. Every time I take her up, one pilot muttered, I feel like I'm strapped to a safe with wings. Even the Germans mocked it, their intelligence reports dismissing the P-47 as better suited for hauling cargo than dogfighting their sleek Bf-109S and FW-190S.
Enter Sergeant Tom Kelly, a grease-stained mechanic from the Dust Bowl of Oklahoma. Born in 1915, Kelly grew up in a world where machines were lifelines. His father fixed tractors for farmers barely scraping by, and young Tom spent his childhood elbow-deep in oil, learning to coax life from coughing engines. He raced jalopies down dirt roads, feeling the pulse of metal and horsepower. You don't need blueprints, he'd say, when you can hear an engine breathe. That instinct made him different. When America entered the war in 1941, Kelly didn't enlist for medals or glory. Every man's got a talent, he told the recruiter. Mine's making things work when they shouldn't. By 1943, he was stationed with the 56th Fighter Group, a unit that would soon be legendary as Zemke's Wolf Pack. The airfield was a gritty patchwork of mud, tents, and corrugated hangars, where mechanics worked 12-hour shifts in bone-chilling cold, their hands freezing to their tools. They weren't just fixing planes, they were keeping men alive. Kelly saw the P-47 differently. Where pilots saw a clumsy beast, he saw untapped potential. Its engine could lift an elephant, its wings could shrug off cannon fire, and its frame was built like a steel anvil. The problem wasn't the plane, it was the design strangling it. The turbocharger overheated, the oil pooled, and the narrow intake ducts suffocated the engine. Headquarters had a solution: wait for new parts from the States. Kelly checked the supply log and scoffed. 3 weeks for ducting? That's 3 weeks of men dying. He wasn't one for red tape. Pilots grumbled about death sentences, mechanics cursed the endless repairs, and officers sent memos demanding strict adherence to manuals. Kelly ignored them. He'd seen too many pilots not come back, too many Thunderbolts limp home smoking or not return at all. The manuals were written by engineers who'd never faced combat. Kelly trusted his gut, and his gut said the engine was choking. One freezing December night, after the airfield fell silent, Kelly made his move. The hangar smelled of oil and burnt metal as he climbed a ladder, flashlight clenched in his teeth. He began cutting into the Thunderbolt's intake system with a hacksaw, each spark a potential court-martial. He widened the ducts, rerouted the airflow with salvaged Spitfire tubing, and riveted a crude baffle from scrap aluminum. It was ugly, like grafting farm equipment onto a fighter plane, but Kelly wasn't after beauty. He was after survival. Every clang of his wrench echoed like a gunshot in the empty night. He worked through the dark, hands raw, eyes burning, driven by one thought: keep his friends alive. By dawn, he'd transformed the P-47's engine cowling into something unrecognizable. When he hit the starter, the engine didn't sputter, it roared, a clean, hungry sound. The gauges stayed cool. No smoke, no overheating. Kelly leaned against the fuselage, exhausted but grinning. "You're not a jug," he whispered, patting the metal. "You're a bull."
The next morning, the airfield buzzed with whispers of Kelly's rogue stunt. Lieutenant Joe Ringo Haynes, a hot-headed pilot who'd nearly died in a failing Thunderbolt the week before, stormed toward the plane. "You cut open the damn engine," he shouted. Kelly shrugged, wiping his hands on a rag. She was overheating. "I fixed it." Haynes's voice rose. "You can't carve into a government aircraft." Kelly's reply was ice calm. "Guess I just voided the warranty on a warplane." A mechanic laughed, but the tension didn't break. Everyone knew Kelly had crossed a line. Modifying a military aircraft without approval wasn't just risky, it was illegal, a violation of Army Air Force regulations that could land him in front of a court-martial. But Kelly didn't care about rules. He'd grown up in the Dust Bowl, where survival meant fixing what others gave up on. Tractors broke daily, and the Depression took his family's farm, but Kelly never stopped believing that if it moved, it could fight. To him, the Thunderbolt was a challenge, not a failure. "The Army calls her a fighter," he told a buddy, "but I say she's a hammer. You just gotta swing her right." That morning, Haynes climbed into the modified P-47, half expecting it to explode. The plane looked like a Frankenstein creation, with mismatched patches and a lopsided cowling. But when he hit the throttle, it leapt forward, wheels leaving the ground in half the usual distance. It climbed like a predator, slicing through the gray English sky. Over the radio, Haynes's voice crackled, "Temp steady at 10,000, 15, 20. No overheating." "Jesus, Kelly, she's smooth." The hangar erupted in cheers, but Kelly just exhaled. He knew this was only the beginning. The commanding officer was livid. "What in God's name did you do to that aircraft, Sergeant?" he barked, circling the P-47 like it was a crime scene. "Improved it, sir," Kelly replied, standing at attention. "You butchered government property. You violated half the maintenance code." Kelly didn't flinch. "And I might have saved a few lives while I was at it." Before the officer could respond, a mechanic fired up the engine. The R-2800 roared with a steady, confident thunder, the gauges perfect. The officer's jaw tightened, but he couldn't hide his surprise. "You're lucky this works, Sergeant," he said. "You'll still answer to command." Kelly nodded. "Yes, sir. But first, let's test her where it counts up there." That test came in March 1944, during a daylight raid over Hanover. The 56th Fighter Group was escorting B-17 bombers targeting Nazi factories. The Luftwaffe was ready, throwing dozens of FW-190s and Bf-109s into the fray. Haynes flew Kelly's modified P-47, its crude patches gleaming in the winter light. Kelly stood on the airfield, staring at the horizon as the engines faded. The radio crackled with chaos, bandits 12 o'clock high. Messerschmitts everywhere. Red 2's hit. Then Haynes's voice, "This Thunderbolt's running hot. Wait, temps dropping. She's holding steady." In a grueling dogfight, Haynes chased a German fighter in a steep climb, a maneuver that would have cooked an unmodified P-47. "Engines cool, Kelly," he shouted. "Cool as the other side of hell." He fired a burst from his .50 caliber guns, and the enemy plane exploded in a fireball. Back at base, the hours dragged. Mechanics smoked nervously, officers pretended to read reports. Kelly sat on a fuel drum, waiting for the sound. Then it came, a low, confident rumble. The Thunderbolts returned, battered but alive. Haynes leapt from the cockpit, grinning. She flew like she wanted to fight. "I outclimbed 2 190s and sent one home in flames." The after-action report was undeniable. Every P-47 with Kelly's fix returned safely. 2 unmodified Thunderbolts were lost to engine failure. The brass didn't send praise, they sent orders. Kelly's modification was standardized across the 8th Air Force. Bomber crews noticed the difference. Thunderbolts weren't falling out of formation anymore, they were faster, tougher, more reliable. Luftwaffe reports began noting the P-47's abnormal endurance. Kelly's fix had turned the tide. But trouble loomed. Summoned to headquarters, Kelly faced 3 stone-faced officers. You've made unauthorized alterations to multiple aircraft, the colonel said.
Do you deny it?
Kelly stood tall.
No, sir.
But those planes are coming back with pilots still breathing.
Silence hung heavy. The colonel sighed. This can't be encouraged officially. You'll get a reprimand.
Off the record, he smirked.
Good work, Sergeant. Keep saving our boys. Kelly returned to the hangar, grinning.
They court-martial you, a mechanic asked.
Not yet, Kelly said. They told me to stop.
So, you stopping? Another asked.
Kelly's grin widened. Didn't say that either.
The hangar roared with laughter. Over the months, Kelly refined his fix with quiet support from command.
Field manuals began including his airflow adjustments as recommended adaptations.
Pratt & Whitney sent a letter thanking him for improving the R-2800's reliability, enclosing a $200 check he never cashed.
By summer 1944, the Kelly fix was standard across Thunderbolt units. Mission success rates soared, and mechanical failures plummeted.
Pilots painted a small wrench beneath their cockpits, a silent tribute to the man who made their planes unkillable. The ultimate test came in December 1944, during the Battle of the Bulge. A massive bombing run targeted German positions in brutal weather.
Kelly worked through the night, tuning engines in flickering lamplight.
A young pilot from Kansas checked his plane.
She'll bring you home, Kelly said, tightening a bolt.
You sound sure, the pilot replied. I don't gamble, Kelly said.
At dawn, hundreds of Thunderbolts roared into the sky.
The mission was hell, flak, clouds, and German fighters swarming.
The radio crackled, engine hit. I'm losing oil pressure. Wait, stabilizing.
Kelly, you genius, she's still running. When the planes returned, the Kansas pilot leapt from his scorched P-47 and hugged Kelly.
She took a hit in the manifold.
Any other bird would have blown apart, but yours kept flying. Command confirmed it, every modified P-47 survived.
The wrench symbol spread across the fleet.
When the war ended in 1945, Kelly stood by the runway as the 56th Fighter Group flew one last formation. The Thunderbolt's roar was his victory. He turned down a promotion to London, saying, "They've got enough officers.
They need mechanics who care."
Back in America, he received a letter from Major Haynes. They're putting your fix in the post-war manual. You saved more pilots than half the generals.
Kelly laughed.
The Army's technical bulletin now endorsed his once illegal modification, calling it field experience. He worked briefly at an aircraft company in Ohio but returned to the shop floor, where he belonged. Veterans sent him Christmas cards with a wrench and wings symbol.
His fix influenced jet engine designs in the 1950s, though his name never appeared in the papers.
Years later, at an air museum in Duxford, England, restorers found a piece of aluminum inside a P-47's cowling, etched with, "Keep her breathing, Kelly." No record explained it, but the mechanics knew they'd found a legend's mark. Kelly had passed away quietly, his death certificate listing him simply as aircraft mechanic. At reunions, pilots like Haynes toasted him, to Kelly, who made the Thunderbolt breathe fire. In 1989, the Smithsonian displayed a photo of an unidentified mechanic beside a P-47, captioned, "Field modifications like his kept American air power flying." Kelly would have liked that, no name, just results. His creed lived on in every mechanic who fixed what was broken, permission or not, don't ask if it's allowed.
Ask if it'll fly. The story of Tom Kelly isn't just history, it's a challenge. What rules are holding you back from solving the problems around you? Whether it's a machine, a system, or a dream, take a page from Kelly's book, trust your instincts, roll up your sleeves, and make it work. Visit our website at Insert Website to share your own stories of ingenuity or learn more about the unsung heroes who shaped history. Keep the spirit of defiance alive, because sometimes, breaking the rules is the only way to change the world.